Dr. Rita Louise, and I think I got the music thing figured out. I didn't have myself muted today, and we are good to go. So hello everyone from Facebook, as well as anyone that might be tuning in from YouTube. If you're on YouTube and you're checking out the show, if you're checking out the show, please subscribe to this channel. Okay, so there's already a comment in there, and I'm just going to say up front before I start, I don't talk to dead people. And so if there is somebody on the other side, they're going to have to stay there as far as I'm concerned. Not a medium, don't want to talk to dead people. But before we start, I want to talk about our superconscious mind, and then we're going to get into the middle of it and answer your questions, except about dead people and predicting the future. And we will get all into it. So I'm in the process of writing a book, and I would love to tell you this is what the book's about, but it hasn't all come together yet. And so it covers a lot of different things, but I'm not really sure what the main focus is because I never really know. And it's interesting because part of my research on the book is looking at the mind and how we interact with what I call our inner world, all those things that are going on inside of us. And so I've already finished this whole section about the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind sits below our conscious awareness and kind of operates different things that are going on inside of us. You know, and then sitting, and I'm going to say above, but I don't know that above is particularly the correct word, is our superconscious mind. And our superconscious mind is how we connect to source, how we connect to the universe, our higher self, our spirit, like our spirit is like in the Holy Spirit, is part of our superconscious mind. And what I thought was interesting is in my research for information about the superconscious mind, so I could have some, I'm going to say, scientific information in there that comes from, more mainstream mental health type sources. There was none. There was absolutely none. And when you try to research higher level emotions like happiness or joy or contentment, the information that's available is very minimal, very limited. And when you sit there and communicate or want to talk about this part of ourself, the superconscious mind, really the only place that you find information comes from religious, spiritual, or metaphysical sources, which makes it a little bit of a conundrum as far as writing this book, because it wasn't my intention to have this book be a religious book. But there's not any way to address this part of us that's innately built into all of us. But the superconscious mind is the part of us that connects to a higher source. It is where our creativity comes from. So when we have one of those light bulb moments where we're trying to figure out the answer to a question and it's not coming to us, it's not coming to us, it's not coming to us. And then, we go and do something else and then boom, the answer's in our head. That's our superconscious mind at work. Or when we are playing a musical instrument or, involved in doing something and we're in the flow, we are contacting or connecting with that higher level of consciousness. It tends to leave us feeling positive. It leaves us feeling confident. It leaves us feeling secure in ourselves. it causes us, which I think is very important in today's society, being in our integrity and doing what we feel is right for us or what we feel is right for the world. Um, but our society teaches us to look outside of ourselves for answers. We look to our friends, we go online, we look for pleasure and satisfaction from the world around us. But to really connect with the superconscious mind, it really needs to be worked at from looking inside, from looking into us to look, identifying what's important to us and listening to that soft voice inside. And I'm going to share a couple of stories of how we know we're connecting with our superconscious mind. Um, and we've talked about a couple of these concepts in the how to part in other episodes. One thing is to become mindful, paying attention to what is going on inside of us, and quieting the mind, whether it's through meditation or going to the gym and exercising, raking some leaves, reading a book, especially an uplifting book, one that makes you feel good inside, will help reconnect you to that source. And I believe one of the other things to maximize our connection with the superconscious mind is to ask questions, and being curious to get an answer and being open to get an answer. I often tell my students, spirit nags. And so if you ask a question, you'll always get the same answer if it's coming from your superconscious mind. So, for example, if I ask, and I did this for years, I would ask, well, what should I be working on next? And I would get this message, well, you need to go back to school. And it's like, okay. So, I would get this certification and that certification and this and that. And, I would finish up. It's like, well, what should I be working on now? And I would pretty much get the same answer. Went back to school, got my degree as a naturopath, finished that. And no lie, I asked mistakenly, what should I be working on now? And the message I got was, oh, you need to get your PhD and write a book. And it was like, okay. So I did that. And I continually asked that question, what should I be doing now? However, they have never suggested to me to go back to school, which was like, wow. It took me getting through all of these steps to finally get past that question. But here are two stories about listening to and paying attention and acting on information that comes from that superconscious mind. And both of these have happened fairly recently. Actually, I see Dave's in here and he heard this story. But I thought it was, even though it sounds really mundane's a good word, it was a lifesaver. And so basically, my dishwasher decided to not work. And based on my estimation, it seemed like the drain tube was clogged up. And looking at it, looking online to see like what you needed to do to fix it. You had to take the machine out and turn it on its side. And I'm like way past my skill set. But there was like 4 inches of water in the bottom of the dishwasher. And I called the repair guy and he was not going to be available for a couple of weeks. It was right at Christmas. He was out for the holidays. And so, my thought was I need to get at least a bunch of this water out. So there's me. I'm sitting on the floor. I have a little cup with a handle and a bucket. And I'm like scooping little scoops of water out of the dishwasher. And it's not going very well. So I asked myself, well, what would be better to use? And the message I got, or the image I got, I tend to be very visual, was a turkey baster. And I was like, a turkey baster? And I really didn't argue with it because it actually made a whole lot of sense. And I went and got the turkey baster and I cleaned out the bottom of the dishwasher, which was going way faster than doing it with that little cup, which was my initial thought. And so even in mundane things, if you have a question, our superconscious mind, our higher self, source, whatever word you want to put there, will provide us with an answer. but it doesn't always work out that way. And Cindy U-Turn Stash, who is our co-host, show monitor, this story has to do with her. So I was visiting Cindy for the weekend, and I usually stay in the upstairs and use the upstairs bathroom. And I'm brushing my teeth, and the sink is filling up with water. And so I tell her, "Hey, your sink is filling up with water." And so all right, she's freaking out because I don't think she's here, so she's not hearing me. Anyway, so she's trying to get a hold of her plumber, and I told her I just won't use that sink, and you could just wait for the plumber to come. And so I went. I mean, she was there. I went and ran some errands, and when I got back into my car to go back to her house, so I always have talk radio on my radio in the car. And I get in, and there's this home improvement show on the air. And they were literally talking about how if your air conditioning line drains into your sink, especially if you're in a 2-story house, that mold can form in the pipe and it'll back up the sink. And all you need to do is put bleach down the sink. And I'm like, ding, 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 ding. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Went to her house, we poured bleach down the sink, and a little later that night, the sink worked perfectly. So Cindy still hasn't paid me for my plumbing experience or, that job. But when you listen, when you ask a question and you listen to the answer, many times you get the answer you need to hear. Okay. So I'm done talking about the superconscious mind. I think it would be a great topic for us to talk about today. The conscious mind, the superconscious mind, all those things going on in our inner world, because that's also where our psychic abilities come from. So that would be another topic we could bring up. So I'm going to kind of go through, say hi to everybody, and then I will start scrolling through at questions. Okay. Here are the rules of engagement. I don't talk to dead people. So now, if there's a ghost issue, I'll talk about the ghost, or a spirit guide or entity issue, I'll talk about that. But, if Aunt Sally died, not doing it. I don't predict the future. So if you have a question, it needs to be formatted as a question, not is this going to happen to me? But I'm looking at doing this. What do you think? Which is totally different aspect, if that makes any sense. Okay, so let's just kind of work through here. Hey, Ziggy and Antone and Joe. Hey, I'm sure you're going to have a question. Charlie and Michael. Oh, hey, Michael. I have a new family. Hey, Michael. And Kyle, from Australia. Ms. Vesta, how's it going? Lola. Dave, I already said hi to you. Bad Wolf 575. Hey, how you doing? Thank you for tuning in from YouTube. We have Sasha. Okay, so we already have a troll. So Sasha, you need to go. I really don't like trolly people in here. And if you keep posting, I'm just going to keep ragging on you. Everybody, Sasha Stone is a troll. So please ask him, her to. Excuse me. Okay. Okay, that's 3 from Sasha, 4 from Sasha. Hey, Mr. Blind Dog. Hey, Kevin. Let's see. Sally, how's it going? And Rosie. Okay, I'm going to scroll back up to the top because that's everybody that's on the list. So if you have a question, please go ahead. Wait, I can put my little banner up. Oop, that's not what I wanted. Too many buttons on here. Okay, there we go. Please post your detailed questions. Okay. Oh, hey, Charlie, you're from Dallas. Cool. Thank you for tuning in. Okay, so let's see. Bad Wolf 757 says, how does anxiety and ADHD factor? Sometimes the only way I connect is in nature. Bad Wolf, that is a great question. So when we have anxiety, it usually means that we're worried about, that we're worried about something. So a technique that I talked about, and I think it was last week, which maybe will really help, is, and this is from Esther Hicks, and I love this. This was probably the most saving technique I've ever learned, was the 17-second rule. And so the 17-second rule is kind of like the 5-second rule, like a piece of food falls on the floor, and if you can get it before the dog, it means it's still good. But the 17-second rule says that if a thought comes into your head, so, oh my God, what about this? Oh my God, what about that? That if you catch it within the first 17 seconds and shift it to a different thought, then it doesn't get the momentum. And that's something that I've seen, especially with people with ADHD, is that they let the thought, they let the anxiety, they let the feeling get a lot of momentum versus cutting it off before it starts. And so, all right, so last year I got rid of this guy, and it really hurt me. And it was also when I learned about the 17-second rule. And so I would be, like taking a shower, and I would start thinking about him, dirty, ratty ass. And I'm like, no, wait a minute, 17-second rule. And I move it out of my mind. And when you move it out of your mind, you could not think of anything. You can think about your dog. You can think about the squirrel over there. You can think about what you're going to be doing next week or what activities you have coming up on the day. It kind of doesn't matter what you think as long as you're not thinking about that negative, anxiety-filled thought. And a lot of people go, well, I did it and it didn't really work. Well, let me tell you, when I was going through the early phases of that breakup, I think I 17-second ruled it like 500 times a day, because I'd be like, oh, 17-second rule. And then I'd be like, la, 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 oh, 17-second rule. But I have to tell you, it really changed everything. It really changed a lot. Okay, so I'm going to come back to, so I hope that makes sense, Bad Wolf. But I'm going to come back to the second piece of your question. I didn't even put it up here. Sorry about that. And the second part is, sometimes the only way I can connect is in nature. And so we all have our way of doing things. And so if the easiest way for you to connect is in nature, then get in nature. Because once you really start working on that muscle, it can become easier, or start looking for other places that you can connect. I also get the impression that you are very sensitive and tend to take on everybody else's energy. And so finding a place where you can be alone and you can kind of, put up a barrier, of sorts, to protect your energy so that you can have your energy and only your energy in your space, and you're doing that in nature. So maybe you can find some other places where you can recreate that feeling that you're having outside. Maybe you can lock yourself up in your bedroom and put nature sounds on, your phone, so you can have those sounds, or, maybe there's some videos that show nature images that you can watch. So that would be another way of kind of taking what is working for you and perhaps expanding it out. But honestly, I would play with that 17-second rule, because I found it to be a game changer for me. Okay. All right, so now we got a bunch of Sasha, who hopefully he is gone by now, because he wants Lola. Because Lola Han, sorry to bother you at such a time, but I came across your page and felt a very strong energy. Would love to get more in depth with you. Woo-hoo. I'm not sure what Matt would say, but okay. If you would allow me to consider you a reading, what's your sign? Sorry, Lola, for picking on you. Okay, so hopefully I'm going to click on this and then I'm going to read it. Hopefully this is a question, like a real question from Blind Dog. Okay. Oh, actually, it was a real question. Woohoo! Okay, so Blind Dog says, when you receive an answer from your superconscious, how do you receive it? Intuition, dreams, etc. That's a great question. So we're always receiving information. It's just a lot of us don't pay any attention to it. So for me, okay, and we all operate different ways. For me, it tends to be an image. That's my primary way. But sometimes you might get a feeling like, well, this just doesn't feel real good or it doesn't feel right. And I feel like it really depends on, what your channel is. Do you tend to be very visual? Because that might be where the image came in. So I was telling the story about my dishwasher and the turkey baster, and it's not like there was someone saying blah, 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 turkey baster. I just saw a picture of the turkey baster in my mind's eye. And so I got the turkey baster. But some people tend to be more auditory, and so they will actually hear that voice inside of them. Some people tend to be a bit more kinesthetic and they will feel things. Okay. And so figuring out what channel you receive things on is primary. But then sometimes you just have to start, learning to trust some of the other channels or some of the other feelings that you're getting. So this was a number of years ago. Whole Life Expo was coming to Dallas to do an event. So Whole Life Expo was a huge national new agey conference that went around the country. And so they had been in Austin before, and for some reason, and I really don't know why, they decided to come into Dallas. And I had participated in Whole Life Expos primarily in Washington State, but I've gone to other ones around the country. So it wasn't like I was unfamiliar with the organization. And for some reason, I just kept getting this feeling like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. I don't know. I just don't think that it's going to be a success, and I'm trying to talk myself into it because whenever I've gone to one, they've always been very successful for me, but I just couldn't shake this feeling. And so I decided to, give myself a reading and go, okay, so if you were giving yourself a reading, because this is how I have to talk to myself. If you were giving yourself a reading, what would you say? And what I would say is don't go. So I said, okay, I'm not going to go, and never send any money. And so Whole Life Expo, the very last Whole Life Expo started on September 10th, 2000 or 2011, 9/11. Yeah. January 11th, whatever. Yeah. And so it really never happened. The whole expo never happened because air flights were shut down across the country. Now, they did have the expo, but none of their speakers, I mean, they brought in speakers from around the world to this event. And they would just open the doors and let people in because it was, I'm sure from their perspective, a nightmare. And there was never another Whole Life Expo after that because I'm assuming they lost it big time. And so I was very happy that I listened to myself because I didn't spend the, $1,200 to $1,600 on a booth, only to have it be dead. So thank you, Spirit. Thank you. Thank you, super conscious mind. So Robert, I think figuring out which channel is your primary and looking to that for your initial piece of information would be the best. And then kind of going from there. But it tends to be pretty consistent. It's not really loosey-goosey. It is very consistent from one episode to the next. All right, so let's see. All right. So, Ziggy, thank you for a new question. I've spent nearly $12,000 in 3 weeks on infusions, alternative health things, and meds. I'd like to know if it helped. I stopped because the price scared me. Um, all right, Ziggy, I'm happy to answer the question, and I hope this isn't too personal. But could you let me know what the infusions were supposed to do? Were you doing like heavy metal detox? Were you doing vitamin C? Is this kind of a cancer thing? Because that's a little bit too generic for me to tap in on. Okay, but I am very happy to look at that. But if you could just give me that little smidge more information. Okay, so we got like a couple of Marshallites in here. We have Sally from Marshall. Yay! Um, okay, and then Michael's going to go, and I was hoping he was going to ask a question. Hey, Miss Shonda. Okay, so how's it going? All right, so let's see. So Joe said, "Thank you so much for all your help over the last 10 days. I had to come home. Anything I can do energy wise to help my friends at the hospital." Okay, Joe, let's see. Well, Joe, I'm kind of checking in on them, and I feel like things are going really well. They made it past Thursday, and I feel like things are kind of, on the mend. I feel like his recovery, I'm not going to mention the names, but his recovery is really doing well and is surprising the medical staff at the hospital. So that's really good. Um, okay, and I know we've talked about this, and if you don't remember, just bug me and I will refresh you. But I feel like grounding Michael and grounding the room, the hospital room, so that when mom is in there, she will get grounded as well. I think that will really help. And I know you have the skill sets. I know you just want to spray essential oils everywhere, but you can't. Well, you could make believe you're spraying essential oils everywhere and clearing out that energy, because when you work with intention, it's about the intention, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you are physically doing that. So that would also be something you can do. And I know that Una had to do those two things. And so I think if you do that, every day, every couple of days, just to kind of keep that energy fresh and keep it moving, that would be really great. Okay. Okay. I gotta love my YouTube people. Okay. Because they always like to stump me. What are methods for counteracting possibilities of directed energy weapons? Reference Robert Duncan's book Soul Catcher, Who Invented Technology. Um, I don't know that you could. I mean, I would think that if you were, and I don't even know if these work, so I'm just kind of just responding with what they're telling me. Something with like a scalar energy pendant or something that protects your auric field might help. The biggest thing that I'm going to respond to is that if somebody sets off a directed energy weapon, they're not going to tell you. And so you're not going to have 10 or 15 minutes to like go and put yourself in a bunker or climb in a Faraday cage or work on your auric field or get in your crystal circle, because you aren't going to know. You're only going to know when you're knocked on your butt. I mean, I feel like if you are hit with a directed energy weapon, This is kind of bad, and hopefully I can say this out loud. I think it would be much easier to recover from that than it would be to recover from some of the things that have been flying around the medical community lately. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. You know what I'm talking about. Because this is just really rebuilding your energy system and reconnecting yourself. But it's you taking care of you and you not trying to overcome something that has been implanted into your body that is now part of you. Okay? I hope that answers your question to your satisfaction, Kevin. Thank you. Okay, so Rosie, I have one. All right. I'm going to assume this is have wanted to live in Thailand and working with health, helping others heal. Can you see me doing this, please? Thank you. Okay, so Rosie, I'm going to just throw this out there. So that's kind of predicting the future question, but I'm going to shift it around here a little bit and actually give you an answer. So I feel like there is some fear in your space, and it's not about the helping people or the healing people or supporting people or backing people up. I feel like that's the easy part. The biggest issue that I see is you going to Thailand, so I don't know if it's procrastination, which I don't not liking that. I just feel like there's this fear inside of you, and I feel like there's kind of a monetary fear about pulling that all together, as well as a fear of doing that whole process. My feeling is that if you have connections in Thailand where you can just go and kind of slide in, because and I'm going to use the word, if you have a sponsor of sorts, then I feel like it's easy peasy. Come up with the money and go, because you'll just be able to roll right into that. If you are going there and looking to, and I'm going to say, set up shop, I feel like it will be more challenging. And I feel like that's more where the fear is coming from. So if you don't have a sponsor, if you don't have connections there, then that's something that I would work on before leaving, because once you have that in place, and I'm just really feeling like one person or one organization that you would work with or work under, it takes away all of that weird uncertainty and makes it be a doable thing. Okay, great. If you have a follow-up, just put it down below. Okay, so Ziggy put, love that. Notice the thought, be aware of it, replace it with a better thought before it can be embedded. So that's the 17-second rule. Ziggy, I love the 17-second rule. So I guess Kevin likes the 17-second rule too. I found it to be a life changer. And sometimes when you use the 17-second rule, they suggest that you find something happy to think about. Think about your dog, think about anything, and I know for me that there were times that I couldn't come up with anything happy. I wasn't happy. I couldn't come up with anything happy. But I found that I could clear my mind. I can become mindful of what I was doing. If I was in the shower, I would just kind of stop and be in the shower. Or if I was doing some work, instead of having my mind wander over there, I would bring it back and I would bring my focus onto what I was doing in that moment. And that is very appropriate and is a very good use of that energy. So don't even beat yourself up if you can't get there. Just bring your focus back in. And if you can't do the 17-second rule every single time, don't beat yourself up either, because it's a practice and it takes time. It takes time to catch yourself, and sometimes it takes more than the 17 seconds to catch yourself. Sometimes you might be a good 30 seconds, minute into the whole thing and go, oh my God, I got a 17-second rule. And that's okay, because it's a process, it's a practice. And so own the process, own the practice. Perfect. Thank you. And if you guys do try the 17-second rule, I would love for you to come back and offer some feedback on it. Okay. April, let's see, what does she have to say? My teenage stepson has many learning disabilities and really struggles with school. What can we do to help him be successful? Okay, that's a great question. Well, I'm going to kind of go in a place that you're probably not thinking, but I'm going here. April, the first thing that jumped out at me is that if it's possible, it would be really helpful for you to clean up his diet. Um, I know that, and I would put him on what would be considered very low allergen diet, so no wheat, no eggs, no sugar. I know, and no soy. Those would be the ones that I would look at first. Um, and get rid of the chemicals and make it so that he can ground in his body. I just get the impression that, he eats what he wants. And I feel like part of the issue, not the whole issue, but part of the issue is what he's consuming. And if he's consuming a lot of sugar, then that really needs to be the first thing that goes. Sugar, processed carbohydrates, that kind of thing. Um, well, if he's a teenager, one of the other things, and I don't, is to, and this might be something that you can learn, or if you know how to do this, is to maybe work with him on some meditation skills, and some mindfulness skills so he can become more grounded in his body. I feel like, he tends to wander off and, mentally. And with some of those techniques, it will help him to focus better and will help him to ground his body better and allow him to be more present in the moment versus all over the place. And so please follow up with me and let me know if that makes sense. I mean, I could probably talk to you for an hour about that. But those are the two main things that really jump out at me is the foods that he's eating and his challenge with grounding, and the challenge with grounding makes it so that it's hard for him to focus. Okay. Miss Shonda, she has a long one. Hopefully all this will fit on here. Okay. My own situations, I practice regulating my emotions and keeping the situation in context as it should be. Woohoo! However, as an empath, oh, this is going to be good. I have a hard time with transference of emotions of others. Oh, baby, join the club. I feel like this enables them to mirror my energy back to me and trick me into believing they are something they are not, resulting in them being able to manipulate me. Is there a guide to being able to discern between my emotions and the emotions that I may be picking up with others and confuse? And I don't know if it's more because it cut off there, but Shonda, great question. Oh my God. Okay. So this is what I have learned from personal experience, and I'm going to take your question off because it's blocking my face. Okay. Um, what I have found is that what works best of separating me from me on whoever's energy it is, which is what I'm sure you're referring to. Okay, let me back up for everybody else. And so people that are empathic are just very sensitive to the energy around them. And so they tend to pick up other people's energy. So if there's someone who's upset, now they're feeling upset, all right, I'm going to share some dirt. So I was at this party and this guy was like all over me and like putting out all this sexual energy. And it was like, okay, well, I'm feeling kind of hot here, which, I guess could be kind of good. Although it wasn't what I wanted, and it was because I was picking up his sexual energy and mirroring it back. But I'll tell you what. So the way of discerning, Shonda, is to get into your alone space, to get into your own space, do what you need to do to discharge, whether that's journaling, whether that's going to the gym, whether that's going and playing a game of pool. It really doesn't matter. Whatever your thing is to discharge other people's energy so that you can be you in your space. And then once you're in your space alone, that's when you can go, well, how does this feel to me? Or is this something that I want? So the guy that I broke up with, and he wasn't the only one, because this was just has been kind of a life pattern. It's like, I want to say things would be going good, but things were going good, quote unquote, because it was me running around with their energy in my space. And as soon as they would leave the house, they'd go somewhere for the weekend or whatever, I would be like, I don't even know why they're here, why, and all of me would come to the surface. And so that's the way that you can have you come to the surface and assess what you want and where you're at and get out of the manipulation, because it makes it so that you can take a step back and observe honestly. Shonda, I so get what you're saying. And I hope that that helps. But again, the trick is to get in your own space and release all of their crap from it. And then you can go from there. Okay, so let's see. Scrolling down. All right, so Sally sounds like she has something similar. Their energy is not my energy. Their energy is not my energy. Their energy is not my energy. I learned that by saying this to myself before I have to deal with toxic people 3 times, that I do not absorb the negative energy from others. I literally have to do this before work every day. And you'll be amazed how the negatives that cause you stress and anxiety tend to back away from you with this technique. I learned it from the book Mind to Mind by Betty Shine. I've never heard that one, but one of the things that I do know, and Shonda, I hope you're there listening, is that if you can identify that how you're feeling and how you're acting is not your energy, it makes it much easier to let it go. So as an example, I get up and I go somewhere and I'm like, la la la, I'm happy, I'm all in the groove, I got great energy. And then I get to work and I'm like, I'm just going to scratch somebody's eyes out and whatever. Many times that's not your energy. And once you recognize this isn't me, because again, there's me and not me, and me on not me, and once you recognize that there's a not me in your space, it makes it so that you can move that out and reclaim the me. Great. Thank you, Sally. I've never heard that one, but I like it. Okay, so Princess Nai, I don't do future readings. So if you have a specific question about your future husband or relationship, I would be happy to respond to that. Okay, so Ziggy had asked about infusions, and I'm not going to post the second one. I'm just going to post this one. And these are the kinds of things that she is taking. Okay, so when I look, and I'm going to kind of break this down a little bit, at the totality of what you're doing, I feel like there's a 40%, 35, 40% benefit from all of that. Um, I mean, I feel like the vitamin C has been really good, and I get like a 60% benefit on that. Um, but some of these other ones, I'm not getting all that big of a number. Um, and I'm just kind of going back in time. I get the feeling that in the beginning you were getting a higher benefit, but at this point in time, that number has really decreased. Um, I could see using it as maintenance, like maybe every quarter or, um, a couple of times a year as a maintenance tool. But if it's, like on a weekly or a monthly basis, I'm not feeling like you're getting the kind of benefit that you would hope you would. And actually, I'm feeling like there might be something that would be better for you to use uh, to undo what you're talking about. I think it's interesting because one of the things that Ziggy wrote was 4 years of coal, but the doctors think it's long haul, which is impossible because that didn't exist 4 years ago. So I think they need to try again. Okay, Joe, you get to grounding. Okay, so this is from Lola. And she wants to know about her husband's business and any feelings about his company and his current client. Um, okay, Lola, so I'm just going to say this like I know what I'm talking about. But I kind of am getting the feeling like the client is having some financial issues. I don't know. I'm feeling like there are some issues going on the client's end. So I don't know if work they're giving Matt to do has slowed down, and that's why there's the question. Um, I don't feel like, if the concern is that Matt did something or didn't do something, I don't feel like that's concern. I feel like there's something more going on their end that they're choosing not to really share, if that makes sense. Okay. Uh, oh, huh. Well, that's interesting. All right, hang on one second. Huh. Okay. Okay. So Ziggy, so this is a little bit deep, and I don't know from a ethical perspective, I could or should really dispense that kind of medical information. So I'm going to pass. If you want to schedule a private consultation with me, I'd be happy to work with you on that. Okay, so Joe's back. Patient is having some issues the last 2 days. I think it's the hiccup you mentioned. I have started to work on grounding his partner so that he doesn't keep spiraling. That's perfect. Um, yeah, I do think that is the hiccup. And, you know, I don't even get the impression that it was really that bad, Joe. So just keep, work on everybody, everybody. So that would just be great. All right. So I'm back with Shonda. Kevin, you are so welcome. Okay, so Shonda, I'm not really sure if this is a follow up to your last question. I'm feeling really discouraged and lost currently in every aspect of my life, and I don't know what to do. Um, I think the biggest thing is that you're trying to force something to happen versus taking that little empathic self of yours and quieting it down and slowing it down and allowing the universe to just happen, and let things just come to you instead of having the feeling that you have to be chasing after it and making it happen. Because it might be what you're supposed to be working on is not really anything, and you're just supposed to be working on you. But we're not really taught to work on ourselves or take care of ourselves. Um, and so, but maybe that's what you're really being directed to do, but you're experiencing that as discouragement. Okay, let's see. Well, that's kind of interesting. Okay, so I'm not really sure what your situation is, Emily. Will I be able to rely on my sister for financial support for the rest of my life? And then it comes down and says, and don't have to work. Um, I don't even know if I really want to touch that, Emily. I don't know about you or the other people in this room, but we all work. Um, I don't know if you have health related issues. I'm sorry, I can't really be neutral to that. So, okay, so Sally's back. Let's see. Numbers have been very intense recently, especially 555. I know it means great changes. I sense these changes energetically to the point of mildly shaking. This is not anxiety. I feel the energy of the world changing, both my inner world and the entire world. Can you confirm and possibly see one or two of these changes to help me clarify, at least from my own direction? Um, I mean, I agree with you. The world is changing a lot. The biggest thing that I'm noticing is that because there has been so much fear mongering going on in the last couple of years, that a lot of people really aren't being afraid, and I've told this before. Um, there's all this stuff going on, and I'm at the gym and they have all the TV screens up there. And on one of them, they're showing this volcano in Hawaii going off. And I'm like, "Bah, add it to the pile. I don't even know that you could scare me anymore, And there are people that are talking about World War III and Ukraine and all of this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go with it. I don't know what to do with it. Um, and I feel like that is a big piece of the change that's coming in, is that people are becoming neutral. People are less sensitized to the fear um, that's going on. And so there's not anxiety. It's just kind of like, okay. Um, and I'm looking at you, Sally, a little more specifically. And where am I? I got 5 more minutes. And, one of the things that I'm seeing is that there are some things that are in your current world that you still have attachment to. And it's time for you to look at them and not necessarily let them go, as far as like don't do them anymore, but let go of your attachment to them and have it be okay if it is or if it isn't. Um, because I feel like that's really the energy going on right now, is getting us to let go of our attachments to stuff, whatever our stuff has to be. All right. Oh, Shonda, we have another troll here. This is, where did they come up with these names? Althea? Shonda, hello. I saw a sign in you and connected to it with your heart. Was open to love and light. Not everyone is blessed with this connection. I'm so drawn to you from the universe. Can I consider you for a reading, love? They can't even freaking speak English. Go away. Okay. All right, Charlie, you are going to be my last one for the evening. All righty. Charlie, I started dating someone who lives in another state. What can I do to keep the connection going? I think the biggest thing, Charlie, is to just keep the communication going, keep those lines open. I'm hoping that this person doesn't live, like a lot of states away, and that the opportunity to interact and get together is something that can happen. There's a lot of difference between driving, 2, 3, 4 hours and having to get on an airplane to go meet up with someone. That's when it becomes even more challenging. But the biggest thing is creating that depth, creating that relationship, creating the friendship. And that all comes from being able to communicate with each other, being honest and open with each other, and moving it forward in that way. Some of the best relationships we have come from us having a friend. And I find, we were talking about people getting in our space, that when we're not around someone, i.e., in their physical presence all the time, it gives us more opportunity to be with our energy and with their energy, except their energy is over there and yours is over here. So I hope that helps. And let me see. All right. Well, I only got 1 minute left, so I am going to wrap it up here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone, for turning up today. It's been a great group. I hope that if I didn't get to your question, that you will come back next week and come early, so we can get started right away with this thing. So again, if you are, hang on a second, if you want to, you can contact me directly to schedule a private consultation by going to soulhealer.com. Please send me an email and don't send me a text on my phone. I would really appreciate that. But private consultation, soulhealer.com. And don't forget to like me on Facebook. That would be Dr. Rita Louise on Facebook, or like my YouTube page, Just Energy Radio on YouTube. So until next time, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Monday Night Live. Be blessed.